All right, so we're looking at A53. We are starting factoring trinomials. So we have already done GCFs. That's still going to come into play. We've also factored by grouping, but we are now going to take what we've been foiling and reverse it. So you're going to have problems that look like this with that ax squared plus bx plus c, those same quadratics we were graphing and solving before, but we're going to factor them. So we're going to have what it looks like we end with after we FOIL and add like terms, and this is our goal. But I want to go back over this real quick. So it says,
Is this how you said we're doing it reverse?
Yep, this is going to be, so I'm going to FOIL this, and then we're going to talk about how we would reverse it. So when you FOIL this, you take the first times first, like we did the other day, which is x squared. Then you do your outside, so a positive 9x. Then your inside, which is negative 2x. And then your last, which is negative 18. So we're multiplying all of these pieces. This was my first, this was outside, inside, and this was my last.
No way.
Now, the next thing we always do is we add like terms. So I have my x squared
7x
plus 7x minus 18. And so this would be equivalent. And this was my first, this was my last, but this 7x came from the outside and inside adding up. So why am I going over this?
That way we know what we're doing.
Well, let's see if we do know what we're doing. If you were given this, obviously we know what the outcome is. But if I was given this, the first thing I see is it in standard form. X to the power 2, x to the first, x to the 0. That's that constant. This comes from my first, outer, inner, last. I'm going to reverse the FOIL process. So since there's no GCF, I'm going to go with 2 sets of parentheses. And I would have what times itself give me back x squared? The first term times the first term has to give me back x squared. So x times x. Do we agree with that? Pretty basic. And the ones we're doing for the first couple times we practice this, we'll have a 1 out front. That makes it a little bit easier. It gets a little complex if there's something else there. Now, the last 2 numbers in the parentheses have to multiply to get negative 18. What are all the options to multiply to get negative 18? What are the factors of negative 18? Okay, so I can have negative 18 and 1. What else could I have?
18 and negative 1.
Okay, negative 6 and 3. What else can I have?
Negative 3
All right,
and 6.
negative 9 and 2. I could have negative 18 and 1. Now, can I flip all these signs like you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, here's the deal. I don't want to rewrite everything twice. So when I'm going to do this, the negative sign is the easy fix. So I'm going to look to see, can I get the right number? Now, these are all the numbers that multiply to get negative 18. Of all these numbers, I could pick any of them, but I need to find the right combination to get me 7x. So when a is 1, that front number, when a is 1, the factors of negative 18 will add up to 7. Do any of these add up to positive 7? No, but this one adds up to what? That adds up to negative 7. So I have the right number, wrong sign. So guess what I do? Switch my signs. So 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. That sign's important. But 9 plus negative 2 is 7. So I'm going to drop a plus 9 here and a minus 2 here. All right, now take a second. Let's think about this. We know that the first times the first gives me back x squared. We know the last 9 times negative 2 gives me back negative 18.
Yeah.
The question is, does the outer and inner give me 7x? When I multiply the outer, I have x times negative 2. And when I multiply the inner, I have 9 times x. What does negative 2x plus 9x add up to? 7x. That's why I was talking about reverse FOIL. We reverse this pattern to get the right combination. So that was just to show you, we started with this, we multiplied it out, cleaned it up, and I can start with this and factor it out. So my answer, and I know I have a mess going on here, my answer is right here. It is the x plus 9 times the quantity x minus 2, and the parentheses are important. That's my answer. All the other stuff was just to show. Okay, so factoring trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. That's exactly what we worked with. A, b, and c are integers, but today we're going to deal with 1 as the coefficient. So we are going to have 1x squared plus bx plus c. That's important. And I'm going to write this little note down. If a is 1, remember a is that leading coefficient. If a is 1, then factors of c, what are factors? What do I mean by factors? Factors are numbers that multiply together. So factors of c, the last term, will add up to b. That's sort of the rule, and that only happens when a is 1. So take a minute and look at these examples. Do you see that all these have a coefficient of 1 in front of the x squared?
Yeah.
That is the only time that the factors of c will add up to b if the a value is 1. So no GCF. I'm going to do this, and I call it reverse FOIL. Now, there are other methods to doing this. Some people make this X. I can show you that too, but it's really the same idea. I drop this down a little bit lower. I want to label this first, outer, inner, and last. And once you get the hang of it, you don't have to do all the extra labeling. What do I use to get x squared? X and x. So that we should all be able to start. That's not something I have to worry about. First times first is x squared. What are the numbers that multiply to 6? First, I was thinking of 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. What else? 6 and 1. And this might be nice. You have your times table out. You could look for 6's and break it down, or use your calculator.
And we should do 6 and 1 because it adds to 7. Right?
So you're right. So the idea is we have 2 possible combinations to multiply to get 6. So that's what I'm talking about. The factors of c. So these are my factors of 6, which is c, and they're going to add up to 7. And these are the 2 that add up to 7. So if I put a 2 and a 3 here, I'll get my 6, but 3x and 2x adds up to 5. So I'm going to do with a positive 6 and a positive 1. Now, why is everything positive? If I need to multiply to a positive number, I need a positive times a positive, but what else could I use? A negative times a negative. But I want it to add up to what? Positive 7. That's it. I factored it. If we check it, x times x is x squared. 6 times 1 is 6. First and last are set. Look at the outside. Do you see the outside's 1x and 6x, which adds up to 7?
Then if you have, like, say this was x squared plus negative.
Looking at this one, I'm going to drop my 2 sets of parentheses. First, how do I get that x squared? X and x. All right, 48's a doozy.
6 times 8.
6 and 8. Okay, 3 and 4. Here's what I'm thinking. If 6 goes into 48, so does 3. How many times does 3 go into 48? 16 times. 4 goes into 48. How many times? Should be 12. 2 goes into 48. 24 times. Obviously, we need to do 48 and 1. Am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything. Everything's positive. Do we agree? So I need 2 positive numbers to multiply and add up. My problem is, are any of them adding up to 47? No. Now, here's the closest I got. Do you see 48 and 1? They add up to 49. So then someone says, well, make this a negative 1. The problem with doing that is I don't get a positive 48. What do I get? When I do my last, I get a negative 48. So by forcing the middle to be negative 1x and positive 48, which adds up to 47, I lost my plus sign there. So this one I'm going to cross off, and I'm going to tell you that it is prime or not factorable. But you do need to exhaust all possibilities. It just, we didn't have the right combination. All right, so take a minute and try the 2 check it outs. I think every one of you, leave a little room, 2 sets of parentheses, x and x, and then break down 6 and think about what would add up to 5. So that's how you're going to start it. So I was looking at 2 times 3 and 6 and 1. Now, if I already know that 2 times 3 multiplies to 6 and adds up to 5, I don't have to list everything else. But if I'm having trouble finding it, I do want to think about all the possibilities. It always seems like the one thing you skip is the one that it is. So do you guys agree that 2 times 3 is 6 and it adds up to 5? So when I put them in, I use my signs. And I'm just reminding you again, how does this relate to FOIL? Well, the first times the first gives me back x squared. So if I wanted to redo this, I would have x squared, a positive 3x, my inside is a positive 2x, and last is a positive 6. We knew first and last were set. There's nothing else we were going to use. The question is, was it the right combination right here to get my 5? And it was. So there's your FOIL idea. Final answer right here. Okay, now in B, same deal. There's no GCF because we'll start looking at those later. But the only options I have is really, it's like 1x and 1x. Do I need the 1 there? No, but I'm multiplying to try to get 1x, so 1 times 1. Now, what were your options for 20? I thought of 5 and 4 first. What else do you have?
2 and 10.
2 and 10, and I can stop there because
They add up to 12.
they add up to 12. There's other options, right? 20 and 1. So a plus 2 and a plus 10. So what I'm trying to get you guys to see is by focusing on all the combinations, I then pick the one where the outside 10x and the inside 2x add up to that. Do you see the connection to FOIL? Does that help? Because it's going to help us a little bit later. All right, final answer. I don't need the ones, but I do need the x's. All right, now we're changing it up here where we have different signs. The ones we did all were positive. Now I have a negative in the mix. 2 sets of parentheses. I like to start here. And what's my first term going to be in each set? A and A. Okay. Now, my last options. I was thinking of 6 and 3. Does that add up to 11? No. What else gives me 18? 2 and 9? Okay, look. 2 times 9 is 18. Do we agree? What do 2 and 9 add up to? 11. What do I need it to add up to? Negative 11.
Oh, shoot.
So anytime I have a plus sign, I either need a positive times a positive, or what else can I have? A negative times a negative. So I want to make it a negative 2 times a negative 9. So I do have to think about my signs. Okay, now check it out. A times A is A squared. Negative 2 times negative 9 is 18. And the outside, when I multiply, is negative 9a and negative 2a. There's your negative 11. That was the only change. Okay. See, it's saying factor trinomial of the form, and that's the difference, is my middle term is negative. So still a positive 8. My options are going to be 2 and 4 or 8 and 1. Now 2 and 4 add up to 6. What did we want? 1 and negative 6. So right number, wrong sign, do what? Change signs. All right, how do I get q squared? Q times q. How do I get that 8? Now, does it matter if I write negative 4 and negative 2 or q minus 2 and q minus 4? The order doesn't matter as long as the first and the last work, and then the outside negative 2q and the inside give me back my negative 6q. All right, so you try the next two. So we started talking about this problem. I'm going to go ahead and drop in my parentheses. Honestly, this visually helps me start. Sometimes we look at these problems and there's nothing going on. I'm not trying to do all these numbers in my head. Having these 2 sets of parentheses reminds me of my FOIL where I'm trying to drop things. And I'm trying to drop the first times first to get x squared, so x times x. I'm going to try to drop the 2 numbers here that go last to make 40. So we were talking about 4 and 10. I also have other numbers, 2 and 20, 1 and 40, 5 and 8. Did I miss anything?
The negative or the negative 10 will work because they
Yes.
add up to negative 14.
So if you look at all these combinations, if I had these as positive, they would add up to positive 14. So I want the opposite sign. So anytime I get the right number, I just have to flip the signs to make it work. 1 and 40 add up to 41, and if I change the signs, they multiply to 40, but they add up to negative 41. 5 and 8 multiply to 40, but they add up to 13. If I change the signs, they still multiply to 40, but they add up to negative 13. So do you see how the sign change is just flipping what I have left over. So any of these would be two negatives, but you were right. We want to use the -4 and the -10. The idea is we set the first and last, and we focus on getting the outside, which would be -10x, and the inside, which is -4x, to add up to that -14. So this is my final answer. But brainstorming my values helps. If I get on the first try, I can quit. But if I'm not getting it, I keep writing them out. All right, B, two sets of parentheses to help me think and process. First is x times x. What are your options for 30? I was thinking 3 and 10. That adds up to 13. So I don't have the right number. Even if I change signs, it's just a -13. What else? 5 and 6. Okay, 5 times 6 is 30. What do they add up to? All right, they add up to 11. But I want to do what to make it add up to negative? Change both signs. So anytime my last term is a positive, I either need a plus plus or a minus minus. This sign in the middle is controlling that. And that's it. There it is. -6x and -5x adds up to -11x. Okay, now the last thing that we have to look at. So we started out where everything was positive. So we didn't have to think about signs at all. Then we came to, well, it's still a positive number, but we have to change them to both negatives to add up. This is what we actually did that first example of. Notice my last sign is negative. No GCF. X times x is x squared. And what are my factors of -20? If I need a negative number, what kind of signs do I need?
One of each.
One of each. So I was thinking of -4 and +5. Does that add up to 8? No, it adds up to 1. What if I flip it? What if I do 4 and -5? What's that add up to? -1. Do you see how it either adds up to 1 or -1? I don't want either of these. So what else gives me -20? -2 and 10. Guys, if I don't have a negative sign, 2 and 10 add up to 12. And they don't multiply to -20. Does this work? Yeah. Now, what if you gave me 2 and -10? You got me -8. Right number, wrong sign. So flip your signs. So a -2 and a +10. The order doesn't matter as long as your 2 is negative and your 10 is positive. There's your -20. And the outside is 10x and the inside is -2x. All right, 56, it's negative. So right off the bat, honestly, guys, I could do this. X and x, 1 plus and 1 minus. Now I'm going to remind you, I call this the easier factoring of trinomials because when a is 1, I don't have to work really hard. These factors will add up to -1. Give me numbers that multiply to -56. 6 and 8, boom, we got it. So I need one of them to be negative. Guys, do you see that these add up to -1? Are there other options? Yeah, you could have done 3 and -14. Oh, is it 7 and 8? 6 and 7 is 42. Oh, then we're backwards. Good catch. So 3 and -14 don't work, but 4 and 14 works. Is that right? 4 and 14?
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, we have 8 and -7. That doesn't add up to -1. What's that add up to? So flip the signs. Do you see that I got the right number 1? I need to flip the signs. So I'm going to put my positive with my 7 and my negative with my 8. First, outer, inner, last. Double check it because this is going to help us later. X times x is x squared. 7 times -8 is -56. Outside, -8x. Inside, +7x. So there it is. All right, try these two. So when we look at these, the first thing I see is there's no GCF. I'm going to drop it in my 2 sets of parentheses. First term, nice and simple. All of this is because a is 1. I can't stress that enough. The last term is -10. I was thinking about 5 times 2. I need a -10. So what has to be? One of them has to be negative. Why did you guys pick the 2 to be negative? So it adds up to +3. So that's something else you can think of. When your middle number is positive, you want your bigger number to be positive. When your middle number is negative, You want the bigger number to be negative. See how 8's negative, so it keeps the sign? All right, guys, so a positive 5 and a negative 2. Is it okay if you have them reversed? As long as you have x minus 2 and then x plus 5, that's good. All right, next one. Same deal, x times x. What multiplies to negative 27? Okay, do we agree with 9 times 3 is 27? We need a negative sign. Is this the right combination? Negative 9, positive 3. Now, there's other options, but they're not going to multiply to negative 27 and add up to negative 6. Okay, what's different about this next set? It has two variables. Now, don't get rid of the variable on yours, but if we can pretend that this u is not there for a quick second, just pretend it's not there, we'll bring it back in. Two sets of parentheses. Bless you. We'd still have t times t. Again, we're pretending the u is not there, just to think about this. What multiplies to negative 35? I was thinking of 5 and 7. I'm on example 4. Did you flip it? What multiplies? I got 5 times 7 is 35, but I want it to be a negative 35. So one of them has to be negative. Which one? Negative 7. Yep, because I want it to add up to a negative 2. I'm going to put in my plus 5 and I'm going to put in my minus 7. Now, if we have just this as my answer, I've got the t squared, I've got negative 35, but what's missing? That extra u. Guys, just like you took t times t to get t squared, instead of just having 5 and negative 7, it's going to be a 5u times what? Well, the minus 7u, yeah. So, t times t is t squared. 5u times negative 7u is negative 35u squared. Now, how's this middle come together? When you multiply the outside, you have t times negative 7u. Isn't that the same as, that's a t, not a 2. Isn't that the same as negative 7tu? And in the inside, you have 5u times t. Isn't that the same as 5tu or ut? The order of my variables. When I take t times negative 7u, do you see t times negative 7u? I get negative 7tu. Does the order of my variables matter? Like x, y, y, x? Okay. Then when I go to do the inside, I take 5u times t. So here's my 5u times t. Can I rewrite it as 5tu? Do you see that these are like terms? Negative 7 of these and 5 of these adds up to negative 2 of these. So what I wanted to show you is, where does that middle tu come from? It just is built by these two coming together. The next one's not prime. Are you talking about b? Nope, not prime. So here's what I'm going to do, because I'm probably going to forget it. I'm going to put my u times u to get u squared, but so I don't forget about my v squared, I'm going to put the v in here, and I'll put the number right with it. All right, guys, what multiplies to get a negative 12? Okay, negative 4 and a positive 3. Does that add up to negative 4? Okay, if I flip it, that's no better. That's still 1 or negative 1. What else multiplies to negative 12? Negative 6 and 2. That's what I wanted. So I'll put the negative 6 here. Notice I'm pairing it with the v, and the plus 2, I'm pairing it with the v. There's your u squared. There's your negative 12v squared. When I do the outside, you see how the u and the v would pop together, and the v and the u would pop together. So there's 2 of them, and a negative 6 of them. There's my negative 4. All right, try these next two. Don't forget about the extra variable. What'd you guys find for this one? All right, well, x times x, and what do we have, negative 56? So I was thinking about negative 7 and positive 8. There's other options, but this is the one that adds up. Now, guys, what's missing if I do this? I got my x squared. I'm missing the y's.
Damn right.
Really?
I think you used it right.
All right. Thank you.
What?
X times X is X squared. What are you guys using for negative 63? I was thinking about 9 and 7, but I need a negative 63. So which one should be negative? Did you say all of them? No.
7.
Actually, the 9. Because think about it. Negative 9 times 7 is negative 63, but I want them to add up to negative 2, so the bigger number should be negative. So a negative 9, but what does it need with it? Yeah, that's just an extra piece. It's not any harder mathematically. All right, last couple. I'm flat out telling you these are prime. It says prime trinomials because you have 3. How do I?
Prime.
Well, you do have to prove it though. You don't want to write prime because if you write prime and it's not, you lose full credit. What are my options? 5 and negative 7, negative 5 and 7, negative 1 and 35, or 1. Do any of these options add up to negative 1? No. So yeah, we would say this is prime, which means not factorable. So you need to show that you've tried everything. What multiplies to 10? Positive 2 and 5? Positive 1 and 10? I don't need negative signs. Do any of these add up to 5? All right, try the last 2.
Oh, I have an answer for the last 2.
Yep.
So if I was jumping in, it'd be A times A. But there are no options, guys. Even if I do 2 negatives that are going to add up to negative 2. So this won't work. This is prime. And, this has 2 variables. So if I was going to do this, I would have xy and xy out front. Here's the problem. If I do this 1 times 1, aren't those the only things that multiply to get 1? Will any of them add up to 1? No. So if you do this too quickly, this looks good, but you would get 1 of these and another 1, you would get 2 of them. So this does not factor correctly. So you would also say this one is prime. Okay, the next thing we'll be working on is a mix of these on the back. And so you'll see that the signs are mixed up and you have to pay attention to that.